Now we are going to see the second part of hearing physiology. So here what in the continuation, when the sound passes from the foot of the stapes, here you can see from the foot of the stapes to the oval window into the scala vestibuli, then what happens is because of perilymph it also enters into the scala vestibuli. Here you can see some first into scala vestibuli. From that, because of perilymph it also enters into the scala tympani and it vibrates the basilar membrane. So the basilar membrane vibrates. As now the tip of the stapes is into the oval window, the tip of the basilar membrane moves towards the round window. So this what creates the helicotrema, that is from the basilar fibers. If you remember helicotrema, we have learned it in before one, that helicotrema is the one which is connecting, that is scala vestibuli, scala media and scala tympani. So these three are connected towards the end by helicotrema. It is from the basilar membrane fibers. So this is what they say here. So this bend towards the round window initiates a fluid wave that travels along the basilar membranes towards the helicotrema, and the high frequency wave down the basilar membrane shows a medium frequency wave. So because of this, what happens, now the helicotrema travels towards the opposite side of the round window like this. So if it is of high frequency, then it moves like this, and it is of medium frequency, it moves like this. It is of low frequency, it moves like this. So what you can observe here is, when it is of low frequency, it is moving towards a more distance away from the cochlea, but when it is of medium, only some, but when it is of high frequency, it is moving only short distance. So this movement we can compare it with the water movement in a pond. So whenever you see, you put anything with a high frequency in water, it moves at that time only with the high frequency and stops immediately, but somewhat in a medium cell it moves up to medium, it can move up to medium side. But when you put a very low frequency, if you throw anything with a very low frequency, slowly it goes up to the long distance. So this movement of the helicotrema in a basilar fibers of a basilar membrane is comparable to the wave travels along the surface of a pond. So the pattern of vibration of the basilar membrane for different sound frequencies is, each wave is relatively weak at the outside but becomes strong when it reaches a portion of the basilar membrane that has a natural resonant frequency equal to the respective sound frequency, which we have discussed. So thus a high frequency sound wave travels only short distance along the basilar membrane before it reaches the resonance point. So this is what we have discussed. And next, coming to the function of organ of Corti. Organ of Corti is present here. This is the organ of Corti. It has an inner hair cells and a outer hair cells. The outer hair cells are 3 to 4 and the inner hair cells are only few. But the inner hair cells plays an important role in formation of sound, because from the inner hair cells the spiral ganglion and the cochlear nerve is connected. So that one here I can see in this diagram. So these are the outer hair cells, and the outer hair cells have a small, you can see a small cilia like coming out. These are known as stereocilia, and these stereocilia are connected to the tectoral membrane from the outer hair cells. And the inner hair cell, you can see this continues with the spiral ganglion and the cochlear nerve. And this is the basilar membrane on which presents two rods like structure. You can see these are called the rods of Corti, which are supporting this structure, and this rods of Corti is continuous in front as a reticular lamina. So in this diagram here you can check it. These are tectoral membrane, these are stereocilia hairs, and this is the rods of Corti, and this continuous are the reticular lamina on which the outer hair cells are present, and they are forming a small stereocilia outside. So bending of these hair cells in one direction leads to the depolarization, and bending of these cells in opposite direction leads to the hyperpolarization. So the basilar fibers and the rods of Corti, reticular lamina, these three moving as a rigid unit, which is nothing but causing the auditory nerves fibers to excite and synapses with their bases. So this leads to the movement of finally enters into the modulus, the central part, from where the spiral ganglion and next the cochlear, and reaching up to the upper medulla. So the upward movement, actually the basilar membrane moves upward and leading to a rocky movement, which leads to the reticular lamina also to move upward. Because this basilar fiber is moving upward, then the reticular lamina from this the impulses pass, and even the reticular fibers move upward. And next, when the basilar membrane is moving downward, the reticular lamina also moves downward and somewhat like outward. So this inward and outward movement of the hairs, even of course if reticular lamina moves, these fibers also, this hair like structures also move. So this moving of hair cells back and forth against the tectorial membrane causes the excitation of these cells. So when the basilar membrane vibrates, even these cells also vibrate. The auditory signals are mainly transmitted by the inner hair cells. Of course, if outer hair cells are absent, the hearing ability is lost, because we have found that the outer hair cells are the which are tuning the receptor system of the inner hair cell by the retrograde mechanism which is coming from the brainstem. So this is what is present in this. So the different sound pitches can be activated through the outer hair cells only by the mechanism of this retrograde mechanism, which makes these outer hair cells to become stiff. So this is useful for detection of different sound pitches. That is a function of outer hair cells, but the inner hair cells are mainly for the auditory signals transmission. Next, we are going to know about the excitation of auditory nerve fibers of stereocilia. These stereocilia are present on every hair-like cells. So these cells, for every hair cell, there are about 100 stereocilia on the apical border. So for example, you can see this is the stereocilia. On its apical border, there are about 100 stereocilia. And therefore the back sides of the adjacent longer stereocilia by thin filaments. So actually the stereocilia become longer on the side of the hair cell away from the modulus, and the tops of the shorter cilia are attached by thin filaments. So therefore when the cilia are bent in the direction of longer ones, the shorter ones are moved tucked outward. So because of this, it leads to open of 200 to 300 cation conducting channel, especially they open the potassium ion channel. So rapid movement of positively charged potassium from the surrounding scala media. Why scala media? Because in the scala media only there is basilar membrane, on that only this outer cells, inner cells, and on that there are stereocilia. So this fluid moves into the stereocilia, which causes the depolarization of hair cell membrane. Hence it acts as hence the organ of Corti acts as a detection of sound mechanism. So what is this endocochlear potential actually? We know here there is scala vestibuli, scala tympani, and scala media. In scala media, so there are it is filled with endolymph, and the scala vestibuli and tympani are connected to each other. So they are like almost containing perilymph, and they are almost equal to the CSF. So because in the subarachnoid space like thing, they pass from scala vestibuli to scala tympani. But here as the endolymph is present, so here you can see there are outer hair cells with the stereocilia. So the stereocilia outer hair cells with the reticular lamina, these are like almost in the perilymph area, but the base is it is nearer to the scala tympani, so they are nearer to the perilymph. So their bases are bathed in the perilymph, and their tops are bathed in the endolymph. So in endolymph and perilymph the potentials different, because electrical potential of plus 80 MV is always electrical potential difference between the endolymph and perilymph, because there is more positivity inside the scala media because of the endolymph, and more negativity in the perilymph because of in the scala tympani and also in vestibuli. So you can see the negative intracellular potential of minus 70 with respect to perilymph, that is towards the outside, that is in the hair cells, minus 150 potential with respect to endolymph at the upper surfaces, where the hairs project through the reticular lamina and into the endolymph. So endolymph side it is minus 150, and towards negative intracellular, that is minus 70. This endocochlear potential is mainly due to the secretion of positive potassium ions by the stria vascularis. So this is the stria vascularis which is creating this more positivity of influx of potassium ions into the endolymph, and so hence there is a difference in the stereocilia or outer cells and the base of the cells. So the base, it has minus 150 and it has minus 70. So because of this endocochlear potential only, we can even able to respond to the slightest sound, and we can at the tips of the stereocell, which sensitizes the cell an extra amount, thereby increasing its ability to respond to the slightest sound also. Determination of sound frequency, that is by Place and Wolay principle. So what this principle says, let us understand. The cerebral cortex shows the specific brain neurons, and these are activated by the specific sound frequencies. So for every specific brain neuron, there is specific sound intensity which is stimulating it. So the major method used for the nervous system to detect the different sound frequencies is to determine the position along the basilar membrane that are most stimulated, which is called Place principle. So what this Place principle is saying is, so the maximum site where you can see there are more sound frequencies, that is what is frequencies to determine along the basilar membrane that are stimulated, which is called, so where more different kind of sound frequencies are stimulated, that is known as Place principle for detection of sound frequency. But in distal helicotrauma, it is stimulated only by 200 cycles, that is of low frequency. So it is now difficult to understand this frequency Place principle frequency, because what kind of low frequency we are not understanding. So these low frequencies are postulated by the so-called Wolay or frequency principle. So this Wolay or frequency principle is nothing but saying about low frequency sounds, that is from 20 to 1500 to 200 cycles per second. So this is which causes the volleys of nerve impulses, and these are synchronized at the same frequencies, and these volleys are transmitted by the cochlear nerve into the cochlear nuclei. This pathway we are going to learn in the next part. So this is suggested that the cochlear nuclei can distinguish the different types of volleys. So this is what they said. So this Wolay principle is mainly about finding of the low frequency of sounds. So the Place principle is where the most number of stimuli are found on the basilar membrane of different sound. This is the Place principle. And next, determination of loudness. So loudness can be determined in three ways. That is, the first way is when the sound becomes louder, the amplitude of vibration of basilar membrane increases because of inner hair cells. So hair cells also excite the nerve endings more rapid rates. And second one is because of amplitude of vibration increases. As amplitude of vibration increases, more and more hair cells on the fringes are formed, so showing the resonating property of the basilar membrane we know. So this is also stimulated and causing the spatial summation of the impulses. And next, transmission to many nerve fibers rather through only a few, because as now many fibers are stimulated, so we need to transmit it by many fibers, not by only one fiber. And next, third one is the outer hair cells do not become stimulated significantly until the vibration of basilar membrane reaches the high intensity, because first the inner cells are activated and next the outer hair cells are activated. So until if there is only low power frequency, then only the inner hair cells activate, but until there is high power frequency, the outer hair cells only, then only they can stimulate. So this reaches until the vibration of basilar reaches high intensity, and stimulation of these cells presumably apprises the nervous system that the sound is loud. So when our nervous system can understand that the sound is loud, that when it reaches the outer hair cells. So this is the clue to remember that when our outer hair cells stimulates, then we can say the sound is loud. And next, coming to detection of changes in loudness, that is a power law. So what this says, for example, if a person interprets change in the intensity of sensory stimuli, approximately it is proportional to the inverse power function of actual intensity. So this is like a formula base, we need to remember it. So it is approximately how much time proportional is cube root of the actual sound intensity. So this is just like which point you need to remember it. There's nothing to understand. For example, here they gave an example that when an ear can discriminate differences in sound intensity from the softest whisper to the loudest possible noise. So you can easily differentiate when there is softer whisper to higher sounds. So how your ear can differentiate is, it's because of approximately, so this is because of representing an approximately 1 trillion times increase in the sound energy, or 1 million times increase in the amplitude of movement of the basilar membrane. So yet the ear trappers which difference in sound levels as approximately as 10,000 fold change. So this scale of intensity is greatly compressed by the sound perception mechanism of auditory system, which allows a person to interpret the difference in sound interval. So this is all because this is saying that how to differentiate the sound, that is a small whisper or maybe it is a loud sound, it has very huge difference. So we are able to interpret it because there is a intensity in sound difference or a wider range would be possible where it is not for compression of intensity scale. And next, coming to the decibel unit. The decibel unit is because of extreme changes in the sound intensities that ear can detect and discriminate the sound. They are usually expressed in the terms of logarithm of their actual intensities. A tenfold increase in the sound energy is called 1 bell, and 0.1 bell is nothing but 1 dB. So 1 decibel represents an actual increase in sound energy of 1.26 times. So another reason why we are using this decibel system is to express the changes in the loudness is that in the usual sound intensity range for communication, and the ears can barely distinguish an approximately of 1 dB change in the sound intensity. So this is to differentiate the sound intensities, how loudness that sound is. And threshold for hearing sound at different frequencies. So the threshold at which the sound of different frequencies can be barely be heard by the ear, that demonstrates a 3000 cycle per second. So with our bare ear, how much sound we can hear? Threshold, the maximum limit that we can hear is 3000 cycle per second, and that sound can be heard even when its intensity is low, as 70 dB below, that is 1 dyne per centimeter square. So the sound of the sound pressure level, so which is 1/10 million microwatt per square centimeter. It is conversely 100 cycle per second sound can be detected only if its intensity is 10,000 times as great as this. So this is just like formula based, not so important. And frequency range of hearing. Those are frequencies of sound that a young person can hear. So young persons can hear between 20 to 20,000 cycles per second. And referring, we can say that the sound range depends to the greater extent on the loudness. So if the loudness is 60 dB below the 1 dynam sound pressure level, then the sound range is only 500 to 5000 cycles per second. Only if the intensity sound can complete the range of 20 to 20,000 cycles can be achieved. So in old days the frequency range is shortened, so we can't. So this is nothing but summary of this is, in young age we can listen every sound that is about 20 to 20,000 cycles, but in old age we can't listen. Of course, in old age the power of hearing decreases, so we can only listen up to 80 to 80,000 cycles per second, 50 to 8,000 cycles per second, and it's discussed. So this is all about part 2, and next part we are going to see the central auditory mechanism.